Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. In the description of this video, you can find my compiled link. Through there, you can find ways to support the channel, my other social media, and more. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back another video. We're doing a first thought today. This first thought is on Mishra, claimed by Gix. I'll also be talking a lot about Phyrexia and Dragon Engine because the two of them meld to become Mishra, lost to Phyrexia. Very cool commander here. I love the different build around routes that you can take with this commander. It seems really interesting and seems like a lot of fun to play and build. The categories I'll be talking about today include ways to get Phyrexia and Dragon Engine into either your graveyard or into your hand so you can cast it and play it, so that way you can actually meld, because you do need the two pieces to meld and get the backside going. After that, we're going to talk about some extra combat step cards because that seems fantastic with combat-based commander. Then I'll be talking about creatures that have either attack triggers or damage triggers, because those seem like they'll be very good in this deck because you're going to be wanting to attack with a lot of creatures, so you might as well attack with creatures that'll do something when they attack. I'm also going to talk about some cards to keep those creatures alive because that seems pretty important. After that, I'll be talking about a token build, because tokens seem very synergistic with this commander. You're going to want to be attacking with a lot of creatures. Tokens are throwaway creatures that you can easily attack with, and you can easily get more of very quickly, so it seems worthwhile to throw into this deck. Then I have a lot of one-off cards and in the 99. So let's start off with some ways to find Phyrexia and Dragon Engine. You're in black, so you have all of the best tutors in the game, including Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor. I'm not going to talk about all the tutors though, because you are in black. There's a ton of tutors. But I'm going to talk about some synergistic tutors that you can use in different ways. There's ways to put Phyrexia and Dragon Engine into your graveyard and it has Unearth, so you can capitalize on that. Some of those include Buried Alive, Corpse Connoisseur, Entomb, Final Parting, Gravebreaker Lamia, Unmarked Grave, and Vile Entomber. Since Phyrexia and Dragon Engine has Unearth on it, you can unearth it so that way you can get it from your graveyard into play, but it is a little bit risky to do it that way, because if you do, then you're open to somebody removing your Mishra, and then your Phyrexia and Dragon Engine just gets exiled permanently, and then you're never going to be able to meld. So I think ways to reanimate it outside of unearthing seem very good in this deck. Some ways that you can reanimate Phyrexia and Dragon Engine include Reanimate, Apprentice Necromancer, Call the Death Dweller, Persist, Unearth, Victimize, Animate Dead, and Necromancy. Also, getting Phyrexia and Dragon Engine into your graveyard and reanimating it is more synergistic with Phyrexia and Dragon Engine because it has a trigger where if it comes to play from your graveyard, you either discard your hand and draw 3 cards. So in a Reanimator style build, it can help fill your graveyard and draw you cards, and just seems really worthwhile. I think a Reanimator shell might be really good with this commander. Another route you can take is going artifact style. Because of the fact that Phyrexia and Dragon Engine is an artifact, there's a lot of ways, especially in red, to reanimate artifacts and do a lot of shenanigans with artifacts going in and out of your graveyard. So ways that you can reanimate Phyrexia and Dragon Engine, since it's an artifact, include Goblin Engineer, which also can tutor for it, Daretti, Goblin Welder, Kami of Industry, Scrap Trawler, Scrap Welder, and Trash for Treasure. That seems like a very interesting way to build this deck. Just fill the deck with a lot of different artifacts and reanimate artifacts and kind of sack and reanimate over and over and over again. You'll probably want ways to create artifact creature tokens, or just run a lot of artifact creatures so that way you can attack with them and get those extra triggers off with Mishra. I think some sort of reanimation shell, whether it be artifact based or not, might be the way to go with this, just so that way you don't have to worry about the unearth and you can capitalize on the ETB from the graveyard of Phyrexia and Dragon Engine. Both sides of Mishra have attack triggers, so extra combats seem like it would be really good in this deck, especially if you're going really wide of tokens or something and you're going to have a lot of creatures attacking. You can drain your opponents for a lot of life very quickly with extra combat steps. Some extra combat step cards include Aggravated Assault, Bloodthirster, Combat Celebrant, Fury of the Horde, Hellkite Charger, Karlach, Morog, Port Razor, Relentless Assault, Savage Beating, Scourge of the Throne, Seize the Day, and World at War. With all the synergies of extra combats and the attack triggers from Mishra, Other creatures with attack triggers or combat damage triggers seem really good for this deck because you're going to need to attack with a lot of creatures anyways. Attack with creatures that do something when they attack. Some creatures that have good attack triggers that you could throw into this deck include Acolyte Hybrid, Archon of Cruelty, which is especially good if you're going Reanimation, Balor, Calculating Lich. There's a few curses that seem great, including Curse of Opulence, Curse of Disturbance, and Curse of Hospitality. Both Jaranas seem pretty powerful in this deck. Elderbrain, Atali, Goldspan Dragon, both Grave Titan and Inferno Titan, along with Croxa. Hanweir Garrison and Hanweir Battlements seem like a great additional meld card to include in this deck. Hellrider, Kranko, which can make a ton of tokens and increase the amount of creatures attacking. Lucille, Sky Sovereign Console Flagship seems fantastic for this deck because Mishra can crew it on its own and it adds a big flyer that'll lightning bolt things. Looter Scooter's in a similar boat, lets you draw extra cards. Tectonic Helion is a fantastic reanimation target with a great attack trigger. And Vengeful Ancestor. You also have creatures that trigger when they deal damage, and those include cards like Ancient Copper Dragon and Ancient Brass Dragon, Balefire Dragon, Hellkite Tyrant, Kamenu Battle Armor, Moira, Neheb, Rankle, Starscream, one of the new Transformer cards, and Tombblade. All of these cards can put in a lot of work in this deck because they add to your creatures attacking and you're going to get extra benefit on them when they deal damage. But you want to make sure they're not dying all the time because you're going to need to send them into combat as much as possible. Some ways to keep them safe, keep them alive, make them unblockable, stuff like that include cards like Dolmen Gate, Bubble Matrix, Generals Kabuto, Maze of Ith, Hot Soup, Key to the City, Prowler's Helm, Whisper Silk Cloak, Trailblazer's Boots, and Intimidation. I don't see Intimidation played very often. I think it would be very good in this deck. If you want to go wide with tokens, that seems like a very powerful strategy for this commander. There's a lot of great ways to create tokens in red and black, and some of those ways include cards like Black Market Connections, which also can ramp you and draw you cards, which is amazing, Jadar, Loyal Apprentice, Ophiomancer. Those tokens are nice because they have Death Touch. Tilonali Summoner. This card seems fantastic. You can stack the triggers, so Tilonali Summoner will go off before Mishra's trigger goes off. So you can pay a lot of mana to make a bunch of tokens that are tapped and attacking. And then Mishra will see all those tokens and it'll drain your points for a lot more. Endrick Sar, Ghoul Caller Giza, Sizat's Will, Tempt with Vengeance, Wand of Orcus, Bitter Blossom, plus those tokens have flying so they can stick around a lot longer and a lot easier. Rite of the Raging Storm, Elemental Mastery, there's a few Chandras that work well, and Lagamos. If you do want to go to token strategy, then you're going to want to run cards that also synergize well with a token strategy. Some cards that work really well with tokens include cards like Gut, Goblin Bombardment, Skull Clamp, and Eldrazi Monument are all fantastic because tokens tend to die, especially when you're attacking with them to get triggers off. So these are good ways to sacrifice them for extra benefit or just get extra benefits off of them. You can also use cards like Idol of Oblivion for additional card draw, and Impact Tremors or Perforos to get additional damage off. Because tokens are so fragile and they're going to be dying a lot, you can also run cards that synergize really well with sacrificing these tokens or your tokens dying. Some cards like that include Liliana or Dark Prophecy for card draw, Black Market and Pitiless Plunderer for additional mana, Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat, Bastion of Remembrance, or Meat Hook Massacre to drain out your opponents, and Grave Pact or Dictative Erebos, so that way your opponents have to sacrifice creatures whenever you're losing creatures. Running Mishra as an aristocrat style deck where the main way your tokens are dying is through combat can create a lot of good triggers for you and it could work really well, and I like the idea of it. So if that interests you, those seem like good cards to run in that deck. Now we're on to some one-off cards. There's a couple of cards that give your creatures keywords and make it a little harder for your opponents to block or a little less beneficial for your opponents to block. Those include cards like Zagras and Goblin War Drums. Death Touch and Menace make it much harder for your opponents to block, and so that could work out really well in your favor. You can run Subira to make your smaller creatures, especially ones with combat damage triggers or attack triggers, unblockable. And it can also draw you a lot of cards if you're going with smaller creatures. Olivia Crimson Bride is an attack trigger reanimator, which works really well for this deck. Ebony Fly is a fantastic mana rock for this deck because if you need to, it can turn into an evasive creature that can give you an extra trigger off of Mishra, and it gives another creature evasion, so you can get an additional creature attacking for the Mishra trigger. Another good mana rock includes Liquid Metal Torque. Because of the backside of Mishra, whenever it attacks, you can blow up an artifact or a planeswalker. This way you can turn any permanent into an artifact. And otherwise, it's just a 2-mana ramp card, which is fantastic. Tome of Legends will be great for card draw because you're going to be attacking with your commander a lot. Cards with Myriad seem fantastic because it adds additional creatures attacking for your Mishra trigger. You just have to make sure you stack the triggers so Myriad goes off before the Mishra trigger goes off. Cards like Blade of Selves, Elturel Survivors, Ganassi Enforcers, and Furbolg Flutist seem great. You can also get extra attack triggers by stealing your opponent's creatures. Mob Rule and Insurrection can be game-winning for you. Archfiend of Despair, Wound Reflection, and the new Transformer card Blitzwing can just drain your opponent's life totals completely if you have a big enough attack. The new Garna seems great for this deck, especially in a token strategy, because when your creatures die in combat, you get to draw cards. And the last one-off card is Neheb. Just generate you a ton of mana. Seems fantastic for this deck. And lastly, in the 99, there's only one commander I really wanted to talk about for this, and that's Isshin. Isshin seems like the perfect home for Mishra and the Dragon Engine, because both sides of Mishra have to do with combat triggers, so both those triggers will double, and that seems amazing. And that is everything I have for Mishra claimed by Gix. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.